Okay, so next up, we have Renjong Tan, who is the director of the Center for Multicultural Education and Programs within the Office of Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Strategic Innovation. We're excited to hear from them about how other opportunities to develop ourselves as a whole person here at NYU.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where or which time zone you are. Thank you so much, Emily, for inviting me and having me. So again, my name is Ren Zhong, and I go by she, they pronouns. I'm the director of CMAP, which is the Center for Multicultural Education and Programs. And I came to New York last year for this job. And so I'm approaching my 1-year work anniversary here. I was born and raised in China. So a little bit about me, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Office of Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Strategic Innovation. And let me share my screen right now. Can everyone see? Perfect. So I really appreciate, Emily, that this session today put a big emphasis not just on application and research and academics, but also on developing yourself as a whole person, and definitely engaging with OGI, the Office of Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Strategic Innovation is not the only way to do it. The presenter before me, Tiffany, emphasized and highlighted different resources for you to develop as a well-rounded person, and hopefully OGI is another channel for you to affirm and explore your identity, learn more about the identities and experiences of others, and most importantly, find a platform for you to build connections with others, to learn from different cultures and issues, and really build community within NYU. So a little bit of mission and vision of OGI. So OGI really tries to advance this inclusive global community for everyone across the NYU community and at different levels, for students, for staff, for faculty, administrators, and alums, and really try to do our work in a comprehensive way so that it's not just, within classroom or outside of classroom, but really having this kind of coordinated approach so that diversity, inclusion, and equity can be embedded in everything that we do, whether that's research or teaching, learning, extracurriculum activities. And so in the end, everyone can achieve that academic excellence, but also feel a sense of belonging. And so GIDBEA is how we describe the core work that we do. I assume many of us are familiar with how we talk about DEI or IDBEA, but at OGI, this is the acronym that we typically gravitate towards, and we emphasize global because NYU is such a global community. I don't know how many of you are non-US citizen. As I introduced, I was born and raised in China, and I believe that NYU has the largest international student population. And so it's really important for us to do the work considering not only, the US context, but also our populations and identities and issues and cultures from outside of US. And we also want to emphasize, access, not just in terms of the physical accessibility and accommodation aspect of access, but really thinking about access to space, access to resources, to opportunities, right? And so when we think about, DEI, we also want to not just think about what events or programs that we provide, but also developing people and also informing and advancing policies and expanding resources. And hopefully the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about these 4 pathways a little bit more. And so this is the 6 hubs within the Office of Global Inclusion, Diversity, and Strategic Innovation. As I said, I come from CMAP, the Center for Multicultural Education and Programs. And we are located in Kimmel Building, which I hope if you apply and come to NYU, will have a chance to visit often. And we also have the LGBTQ plus center in the same building. And we are two student centers, student-facing centers within OGI. And that means that our work is primarily focused on engaging, supporting, empowering students, but we definitely work across the university, engage our staff, our faculty, including faculty members like Emily, and alums as well, to advance inclusive campus all across, right? And so for CMAP, we really try to engage students from diverse backgrounds, but with a particular focus on students of color and students from other historically marginalized backgrounds. Our events and programs, a lot of them, majority are open to everyone, but we do want to kind of center the experience of students of color, including international students as well. And so LGBTQ plus center, self-explanatory, I will share a little bit more about what they do later. But in addition to these two student-facing centers, we also have 4 other hubs that does this kind of inclusion and diversity work in different ways. So we have global faculty engagement, we have inclusive teaching seminar that I believe, Emily, you participated once. And we also have disability inclusive culture, where my colleagues also work with, for example, campus safety officers, with faculty to develop their disability inclusive awareness, to advance a organizational culture that's disability inclusive, right? We also have strategic innovation partnership. So for example, we are on Zoom right now, and one of the accomplishments that I am very proud to say that one of my colleagues made is that he worked with Zoom US and was able to add a function into Zoom, which is that you're able to add your pronouns to your Zoom name and Zoom profile, right? And that's a great example of informing and advancing policy that are inclusive. And that's also an example of how we do strategic innovation with partners, not only within the NYU community, but also with the corporate world, with partners outside of NYU, with other universities in other continents and other countries as well. And then we also have global leadership, which is focused on developing people and capacity, specifically focusing on NYU staff and administrators. So across the 6 hubs, we really try to be, data-driven, research-based, and cross-functional, and also intersectional in the work that we do. And so next, I'm going to talk a little bit about more about CMAP. So as I mentioned, we do leadership development, we do mentorship development, and these are some of the offerings that we have. We also have resources such as counseling services. There is a counseling that sits actually right next to the CMAP office that provides service that are open to all students, but with this, again, with a special focus on students of color, students from historically marginalized backgrounds. We also have a lot of educational opportunities. We have some workshops that are offered regularly throughout the semester. And we also are able to do customized workshops if a particular office or school requests a workshop for a particular purpose. Our colleagues are able to tailor that workshop for a particular purpose, right? And very importantly, we do a lot of community events and socials to bring everyone together, including our students, staff, and faculty. Sometimes they're on campus. It can be like conversation, panel, film screening, performance events. Sometimes they are off campus, a trip to a museum, an outing, a ticketed event. We also do event partnership with our colleagues, with student groups and clubs. And so we're very happy and willing to support different populations on campus in different ways. So I want to highlight a couple of things that are within our program and events offerings. Tiffany actually highlighted focus previously. And we actually just had our welcome orientation this week. Tuesday was a virtual session, and yesterday we had an in-person welcome orientation for our mentees and mentors this semester. So every academic year, we invite students and alums and staff and faculty to apply. So for mentees, this is open to all students, but especially first year, first gen undergrad students of color, right? And then for mentors, mentors can be alums, graduate students, including you, if you end up being here, faculty members, staff members as well. And so we do try to match them up based on their, lived experience, their interests, their academic and professional ambitions and pursuits, right? And then throughout the year, we provide a lot of different opportunities for them to build relationship with one another, but also talk about topics and issues that might be important to them, career-wise, academic-wise. Sometimes it's more for the mentee-mentor pair themselves. Sometimes it's for the whole cohort. We go to off-campus locations to just, have fun and socialize together. And so this is definitely a mentorship program that I recommend to graduate students like yourself to apply to be a mentor so that you can build that relationship with our first year, first gen students. We also have graduate students of color series. Sometimes it's social, very casual, connecting with other students. Sometimes it's more structured, for example, a dinner with faculty of color. We also have CMAP Around the Cities. This is a series where we take students off campus to local businesses and shops owned by people of color and people from other marginalized backgrounds. And so, for example, we've been to an ice cream shop. We've just been to a bookstore last week, I believe. And then we also was at a String Thing Studio, is what's it called, a store in Brooklyn for crocheting and knitting, right? So this series really want to expose our participants to the power of, being a customer, using your own purchasing power to support the community that you want to support. And learn more about the story of how these business owners develop their business and affirm and amplify the voices of certain marginalized communities through their business. And very excitedly, we also launched our new dialogue series this semester. It's called Unpack That Dialogues. And we just confirmed our cohort this fall semester. We have a nice mix of graduate students and undergraduate students. It's going to be a 6-week weekly dialogue program where we come together every Wednesday. We provide dinner to participants and talk about topics that might be important, might be, things that you're grappling with, but don't talk about often in other spaces in classroom, right? So for example, what does it mean to be a New Yorker, right? Issues about the cultural representation of New York City, about gentrification, right? And we also talk about, religion and reproductive rights. We also talk about how we think about and unpack issues around attraction and sexual racism and beauty, right? So everything that's about diversity, identity, but also very current, very relevant, right? And as I shared earlier, we have different kinds of learning and education opportunities, and that includes our zone training. So we have Justice Zone, which is focused on racial justice, specifically through the U.S. lens. We also have Disability Zone that's focused on disability inclusion. We also have Undocu Zone that's more focused on immigration. And then we work very closely with our colleagues at the Center for Student Life, as well as identity-based student groups, to host a cultural and identity-based graduation. So for CMAP specifically, we support students to plan Black graduation, Latinx graduation, Native graduation, as well as a PETA graduation. And that happens in every spring, so April or the month of May. And I also want to share with you that CMAP, the Center for Multicultural Education Programs, is celebrating its 35th anniversary, and we really kind of highlight this theme of relationship building as community building as world building. And so I know that you are not yet at NYU or yet, but hopefully if you do find yourself here, you're able to really build relationship not only on a personal level, but also use those relationships to build the kind of micro and macro community that you want to see to help advance a inclusive world that everyone is more comfortable to live in, right? So that's for CMAP. And I want to, on behalf of my colleagues, also introduce a little bit about the NYU LGBTQ+ Center. So the LGBTQ+ Center creates a welcoming environment for students, faculty, staff, and alums to engage with and develop their understanding of LGBTQ+ communities through programs, events, learning and development, support, resource sharing, and consultation. And so these are the different offerings that the LGBTQ+ Center have. Programs and events. This past, actually last month, we just had NY Drag U, which is a big drag event. We invited both local somewhat established drag performers, but also students who are aspiring drag performers to perform. And that was a very fun night. We also have Trans Awareness Week coming up in November that really tries to amplify the issues and voices of trans individuals. And then other events and programs throughout the year. Some are more annually, some are more like monthly or bi-weekly at different scales as well. And what I want to highlight is the club life, right, at LGBTQ+ Center. My colleagues work very, very closely with student leaders at different student clubs. So whether that's, new masculinities or queer faith, Q faith, or queer grads or queer union, I'm sure there are groups and communities that some of you might find interesting and want to be part of. And something that's very, very exciting is that we are launching the pronouns and gender inclusive toolkits and video series very, very soon. And this month, actually, the International Pronouns Day is coming up this month on October 18th. So my colleague has been working on this project for 2 years, actually, to create a series of videos and featuring NYU community members to talk about the importance of pronouns, how to use pronouns, why it is important for gender and sexual expansive community members, right? So all this is to say that we have a very vibrant scene and support and programs here that support you. And additional resources, there are health and wellness, there is also HIV testing. We also have bias response hotline. My colleagues also worked with, for example, facilities, campus safety to work on gender neutral restrooms, right? So they really did a good job in terms of identifying all the gendered restroom on campus and working closely to transform some of the single gender restrooms to gender neutral restrooms. And these are some of the collaborative events between CMAP and LGBTQ+ Center. We work very closely between the two centers. And so NYU Portraits, it's an annual event where arts meets social justice. Students and celebrities come to the stage at Skirball Center at NYU to use the power of performance including, singing, spoken word, dancing, different artistic medium to amplify issues related to social justice and social change. We also have the MLK Week that's every February to commemorate the visit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we have a series of events coming up next year, actually very exciting. Some are, featuring renowned speakers, some are student events, some are spoken word context, some features community service, for example. And then Solidarity Week is another annual series and a week of events that challenge the whole community to educate themselves to learn more about the experiences of one another and issues that are about collective justices. QT Gathering, Queer and Trans People of Color Gatherings, is a monthly event hosted by CMAP and LGBTQ+ Center that, brings students to fun events, doing things together, arts and crafts, or watch a film together, or do, meditation and self-care together. So different fun things, being in community. And this is NYU Portraits. I just want to show this graphic as an example of what we do. This also just happened this past September. We have Peppermint. We have other celebrities that you may recognize here. I myself was one of the 2 narrators. Very fun event. So I really hope that if you do, come to the psychology department, come to NYU, you'll be able to engage with us and participate in our events and programs. And this is the way to stay in touch. You can subscribe to our newsletter, whether you are already a student or not. You can also follow us on social media. And I also have the email address for CMAP and LGBTQ+, and also the Global Inclusion Office here. And so, yeah, I noticed there are some chats, so I apologize if I'm not able to answer right away, but let me stop sharing. I'm happy to stay a little bit, answer questions if you have any, but yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that and for sharing the amazing set of resources and opportunities that these multiple centers have to offer. Like you mentioned, I've had a chance to dabble in some of them and just found them to be incredibly useful for educating myself about different issues and for finding a sense of community outside of my own department, which is nice to have to support other areas of my own identity development. So I can personally attest to how wonderful I feel that the programming really is. So thank you for sharing all of that.